Imagine for a second that you are holding a religious text. It really doesn't matter which one for a moment. Just picture the physical book in your hands. It feels heavy, ancient, filled with history.
Yeah, you can almost smell the paper.
Exactly. Now imagine that everything you've been told about that book is, well, let's just say, looking at it through the wrong lens.
That is a very polite way of putting it.
Yeah.
I mean, the argument we're looking at today is that it's not just the wrong lens, it's the wrong science entirely.
Right. But seriously, what if those ancient scriptures aren't just spiritual guidebooks? What if they aren't collections of moral fables or poetry about how to be a good person? What if instead they are actual, literal architectural blueprints?
And just to be clear, because this is a crucial point, we aren't talking about metaphors for building a better life or constructing your character. Not at all.
No.
We are talking about literal technical schematics, blueprints for a global power grid that, according to this theory, we've been living inside of without even realizing where the light switches are.
Exactly. It sounds like the plot of a really out there sci-fi movie, but this is the core thesis we are diving into today. And it gets deeper. What if concepts we hear about all the time, heaven, earth, hell, aren't abstract places you go when you die?
Or states of mind.
Or states of mind.
Yeah.
What if they are technical terms for a cosmic operating system? Like, heaven is the software, the cloud server. Earth is the hardware, the terminal you're using right now. And hell is... Well, we're definitely going to get into what hell is.
It's a complete reclassification of everything. In this view, hell isn't just, fire and brimstone. It's a data corruption issue. It's a system error.
That is a tease if I ever heard one. But seriously, this is a mind-bending premise. It shifts the entire conversation from theology, from religion as we know it, to what we might call cosmic engineering. And to guide us through this absolute rabbit hole today, we are looking exclusively at the work of one researcher, Dr. Khaled Waleed.
Dr. Waleed is a fascinating figure. He runs a YouTube channel called Almighty Covenant, or in Arabic, Mithaq al-Khaliq. And I have to give you a heads up. His work is incredibly dense. It's not something you just casually listen to. He doesn't just read the text. He dismantles it piece by piece.
How so? What's his method?
He takes these linguistic roots, primarily Arabic words that have been translated one way for 1,000 years, and he applies a rigorous, almost engineering-like framework to them. He looks for patterns, for structural meaning, for technical definitions that he believes have been lost.
So he's looking at the structure of the universe not as a mystic, not as the theologian, but as a builder.
Exactly. You've hit the nail on the head. He's essentially reverse engineering the machine based on what he believes is the original user manual, a manual that he argues has been completely misunderstood for centuries.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive is to unpack Dr. Waleed's theory of the sacred trinity of building structure. And folks, buckle up, because this is going to challenge a lot of conventional geography, physics, and history.
It really is.
We're going to talk about the hardware and software of reality. We're going to look at the pyramids, and spoiler alert, Dr. Waleed is adamant they are not tombs.
Oh, far from it.
Yeah.
He would say that's like calling a power plant a tomb. It completely misses the point. They are part of the circuitry.
Right. We'll also explore what he describes as a massive cosmic battle between two opposing systems, which he characterizes as Idris versus Iblis.
The system admin versus the Trojan horse.
And perhaps most controversially, we're going to get into the physics of black holes and white holes and how Dr. Waleed applies them to specific real-world cities on Earth.
And that's where it really challenges a lot of deeply held beliefs. It's going to challenge conventional geography. But if you follow the logic of the blueprints, as he lays them out, it all holds together in a frighteningly consistent way.
Okay, let's stop looking at the map and start trying to read the schematics. Let's dive in.
Let's do it.
So to get our footing here, we need to understand the core shift in perspective. You mentioned it earlier. Dr. Waleed seems to be making a transition from cartography, just, mapping things out, to building science. Why is that distinction so important? I mean, on the surface, a map and a blueprint seem pretty similar to me.
That's a fair point, but think about the difference in their actual function. A map is fundamentally two-dimensional, even if it shows topography. It tells you where things are located in relation to each other, north, south, east, west.
It's descriptive.
Perfectly put, it's descriptive. It's surface-level information. If you look at a map of a house, you see the layout of the rooms, the doors, the windows. You know where the kitchen is relative to the living room.
Got it.
But a blueprint tells you how the house stands up. It's a functional document. It deals with load-bearing walls, the foundation, The tensile strength of the rebar, the electrical wiring, the plumbing pressure. A blueprint is about the physics of the structure.
The hidden stuff.
The hidden, functional stuff. Dr. Waleed argues that for centuries, we've been reading scripture like a map. We've been trying to find our place in the world or find a moral path from point A to point B. He says we need to stop reading it like tourists and start reading it like structural engineers.
Because if you don't understand the structure, the load-bearing walls, the whole building eventually collapses.
Precisely. And in his view, that's kind of what's happening to our world. We've forgotten the engineering principles. Dr. Waleed argues that the universe itself is structured like a building. And any stable building, according to basic physics and engineering, needs a specific structural integrity to exist. You can't just have a pile of materials. You need a framework.
And this is where his concept of the Trinity comes in. But I need to be really clear here. We're not talking about the theological Trinity most people in the West might be thinking of, are we?
No, absolutely not. It's really important to set that aside. This isn't Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. This is a structural Trinity. It's an engineering principle. Dr. Waleed identifies three essential components for any and all construction: the base, the column, and the roof.
Base, column, roof.
Think about it. Without a foundation, a vertical support, and a covering, you don't have a structure. You just have a pile of debris. This, for him, is the fundamental sacred law of building. He calls it the Sacred Trinity Matrix.
Okay, base, column, roof, that's simple enough. I can visualize that. But then he complicates this with a concept I found really interesting, the integrated middleware. That sounds like I'm back in my old IT support job. It feels like he's intentionally merging construction terms with computer science terms.
He is, and it's completely intentional. That analogy is central to his entire framework. Think about it in terms of basic electronics. You have a battery, right? It has a positive pole and a negative pole. If you just touch those two terminals together directly, what happens?
You get a big spark. A short circuit. You'll probably ruin the battery.
Right? It burns out. You cannot connect raw high voltage power directly to a delicate component without some kind of intermediary. You need a resistor, a transformer, a medium. You need an interface to manage the flow of energy.
Okay.
Dr. Waleed said that the universe is built with 3 layers to solve this exact short-circuit problem. First, you have the sky. In his model, this is the software, the operating system. It represents the hidden divine solution. It is pure, high-frequency, raw data.
So the sky is the source code. It's the pure logic that's supposed to run everything.
Yes. Think of it as the ultimate program. Then on the other end, you have the earth. This is the hardware. He calls it restricted or dense matter. It's heavy, it's slow, it's the physical plastic and silicon and metal of the computer case and the motherboard.
And you can't just upload the raw code of the universe, this high-frequency sky energy, directly into a rock. That doesn't make any sense. It would just, to use your analogy, short circuit.
Exactly. It would be catastrophic. You need the third element. You need the haram.
Hold on. Let's pause there because that word is loaded. Haram. In almost every context I've ever heard it, haram means forbidden or sinful. Like, don't eat pork, it's haram, or that action is haram. You're saying Dr. Waleed is completely changing the definition of a fundamental religious word.
He would say he's restoring its original technical definition, which he believes has been corrupted over time into a purely moralistic one. He argues that haram, in the architectural sense, means a sacred, restricted, or shaded area.
So not forbidden because it's evil, but restricted because it's powerful.
Precisely. Think of a sign on a power substation that says restricted area high voltage. It's not forbidden because there's something morally wrong inside. It's restricted because it's dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. It's a critical zone.
So it's more like a clean room in a microprocessor factory. You restrict access to maintain the integrity of the operation.
That's a perfect analogy. He calls this zone a barzakh, an Arabic term that means a barrier or a bridge. The haram is the interface zone where the high energy of the sky can blend safely with the low frequency density of the earth. It is the middleware that allows the operating system, the sky, to run on the hardware, the earth, without frying the circuits.
Wow, okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. It reframes the whole concept of sacred space. It's not just holy ground because of a historical event. It's a functional interface, a necessary piece of cosmic technology.
Yes, and without the haram, the connection fails. The whole system breaks down.
So let's zoom in on the earthly part of this, the hardware side. Dr. Waleed describes 3 sovereign circles that make up this operating system on the ground. He breaks it down using the analogy of body, soul, and spirit. It's like a Russian nesting doll of sacred technology.
It is. It's a tiered architecture, and he maps these concepts directly to specific terms and locations found in the source text. Let's start with the widest scope, the outermost layer, Al-Masjid al-Haram.
Which is almost universally understood to be the Grand Mosque in Mecca, the giant complex.
Physically, yes, that's its representation.
Yeah.
But functionally, in this blueprint, Dr. Waleed equates this to the body of the system, or the base of the structure. And in his computer terms, this is the motherboard.
The motherboard, how so?
Well, what does a motherboard do? It's the foundation for everything else. It provides the physical structure and the electrical pathways, the circuitry that connect all the other components. Every chip, every capacitor, every fan has to physically sit on the motherboard to function as part of the system.
It sets the rules of the game, the physical constraints.
Exactly. The Masjid represents the rules or bases of construction. It is the widest area where everything physically submits to the divine law or protocol. It's the foundational circuit board that the rest of the components have to plug into.
Okay, that's a cool analogy. So moving inward from the motherboard, we get to the next layer, Al-Bayt al-Haram, the sacred house, which would be the Kaaba itself, the cube.
Right. And this is the soul of the system. Dr. Waleed calls this the processing unit, the processor, or the CPU.
And the shape is important here, isn't it? The cube.
It's critical. He calls it the cubing point. He relates the geometry of the cube to the processing of data. It's a point of convergence and calculation.
The cubing point. That sounds like something out of geometry class. What does he mean by that?
He's talking about processing information. In his theory, this is where the psychological programming of humanity happens. It's where people are gathered, circulated. Think of the rituals circling it. And where the data of the human psyche is managed, processed, and standardized. It's the processor crunching the numbers of the collective human soul.
So it's not just a building, it's a data processing center for consciousness.
That's his argument. It deals with the software of human consciousness, which runs on the hardware of the masjid.
And then we go to the very center, the core of the core. Al-Mashar al-Haram, the sacred monument. In some interpretations, this is linked to the black stone or the rock.
Correct. This is the spirit. And in the computer analogy, this is the CPU core, or maybe even the connection point to the power supply, the highest frequency scope. The rock represents the direct, unfiltered contact point with the unseen world, the sky. It's the departure point for the data.
So it's the antenna.
It's the ultimate antenna, or the fiber optic cable that shoots the processed data straight to the cloud without any loss. If the masjid is the motherboard, and the house is the processor, the mashar is the pure data stream, connecting the earthly hardware directly to the celestial software.
And speaking of the cloud, this is where it gets really elegant. Dr. Waleed doesn't just leave it at the earthly trinity. He mirrors this with a celestial trinity. It's a perfect reflection, that classic idea, as above, so below.
Yes, and he takes as above, so below as a literal technical truth, not some kind of mystical proverb. He's saying the structure is mirrored. Above the earthly trinity of motherboard, processor, and antenna, you have the cloud layers.
Okay, break those down.
At the very top, you have the throne. This acts as the ultimate roof of the entire structure. It's the master operating system governing all data. It's the server farm that holds everything. Then, descending from that, you have the command.
A command.
This is the software protocol, the actual lines of code, the instructions that descend from the throne to run the matter on Earth. It's the program being executed. And finally, the result of that program is the creation. That's the output. That's us, the world we see. It's the software being converted into visible entities.
Wow, so it's a giant continuous feedback loop. The command comes down from the throne, gets processed through the earthly trinity motherboard, processor, antenna, and results in creation, which then sends data back up. It completely removes the mysticism from it. We aren't looking at magic rituals. We are looking at the maintenance manual for a cosmic server room.
That is Dr. Waleed's main argument in a nutshell. We aren't looking at magic. We are looking at an advanced technology that we've forgotten how to read. He's saying that the miracles described in texts aren't violations of physics. They're applications of a physics we haven't caught up to yet.
This is a perfect transition to a really specific and frankly fascinating part of his theory that I really want to dig into, the physics of water. In the notes, Dr. Waleed spends a lot of time analyzing the difference between fresh water and salt water. Why? At first glance, it seems random. Is he talking about hydration?
No, he isn't giving us dietary advice. He's talking about data storage and data corruption. This is where his linguistic work is really clever and, I think, quite compelling within his own framework. He points out a palindrome, or rather an anagram, in the Arabic source material.
Okay.
You have the word for water, which is may, M-A-I, and you have the word for sea, which is yam, Y-M.
May and yum, it's the exact same letters, just reversed M-Y versus Y-M. I never noticed that.
And in Dr. Wile's framework, this is not a coincidence. These aren't just random words. Their structure reveals their function. My refers to fresh water, heavenly water, like rain. This represents pure data.
Pure data, what does that mean?
Think about rain. Where does it come from? It comes from the sky. That software layer, the cloud server we talked about. It hasn't touched the ground yet. It hasn't run through the mud and picked up minerals and contaminants. It is raw, uncorrupted information downloaded straight from the source. It's the update file before you run the installer. It's pristine code.
Okay, that makes sense. Pure input. And so yam must be the opposite.
Yam is the opposite. It represents salt water. But more specifically, he links it to water that is settled in the lowest parts of the earth. Geographically, he points to places like the Dead Sea. It's water that has run its course. It's mixed with salts, with earth, with runoff. It's the end of the line.
So if my is pure data, yam is corrupted data, used data.
It's more like archived or even quarantined data. Dr. Waleed describes the yam as the result of data settling and mixing with the tongue of the earth. It represents the end state. It's stagnant. It's where data goes after it has been used or, more importantly, after it has been corrupted. And this is where he introduces the critical part, the trash bin concept.
I found this part wild. He talks about something called the hijr majur, the restricted barrier.
Right. Think about your computer's recycle bin, or, even better, your antivirus software's quarantine folder. You don't want a virus or even just a deleted file mixing with your active, clean operating system. You isolate it. You put it behind a barrier.
So it can't infect anything else.
Exactly. Dr. Waleed argues that the yam, specifically locations like the Dead Sea, acts as an energy valve or a quarantine zone for the entire planet.
A quarantine for what, exactly? What kind of data is so bad it needs to be quarantined in a sea?
For historical data of drowning and torment. It prevents the corrupted files. He uses the example of the history of Pharaoh from mixing with the purity of the Mai, the fresh revelation coming down from the sky.
Wait. Let's apply this to a story everyone knows. Pharaoh. The story says he and his army drowned in the Yam, in the sea.
Correct. And Dr. Waleed says, don't read that as just a historical drowning accident. Read it as a system purge, an IT admin cleaning up a server. In this framework, Pharaoh wasn't just a bad king. Pharaoh represented a virus. He tried to hack the system. He claimed highest lordship, which is essentially like trying to steal the root admin password of the universe.
He wanted to rewrite the source code to serve himself.
And the system did not like that. It detected a massive security breach.
So the system's antivirus kicked in.
Exactly. The system responded by formatting him. It was a Format C moment for his entire civilization. It isolated his corrupted energy and his followers' corrupted data and dumped it all into the Yam, into the planet's trash bin. The Dead Sea. It's the hijr majur, a real physical barrier that keeps that corruption locked away so it doesn't infect the fresh data of the Mai.
That puts a whole new spin on the phrase, don't drink the seawater. It's not just the salt that's bad for you, it's the informational viruses, it's digital waste.
Precisely. You're drinking from the recycle bin. And this leads directly to the function of another key location in his model, Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa.
Okay, so how does that fit into this data flow?
If the Yam is the quarantine zone, Al-Aqsa is the firewall and the filtration system. Dr. Waleed defines Al-Aqsa not just as a physical mosque in Jerusalem, but as the maximum range, the terminal point where the Yam, the quarantine data, meets the Holy Land, Al-Quds. It sits right at that geographic and energetic intersection.
It's a border checkpoint.
It's a border checkpoint that also functions as a filter, a data scrubber. Think of it as a water treatment plant for spiritual data. Data enters from the earthly matter, from the body, the Yam. It gets processed by the house, the soul, the processor, and then Al-Aqsa acts as the connection hole that scrubs this data, filtering out the corruption, so it can ascend purely through the mashar, the spirit, the rock.
It ensures that only clean data gets uploaded back to the main server.
Exactly. It protects the integrity of the sky's operating system. It prevents the virus from getting back into the cloud. It's a firewall between the corrupted earth and the pure sky.
Okay, so we have the layout. We have the motherboard, the processor, the antenna, the quarantine folder, and the firewall. This is an incredibly detailed system. But who built it? Who is the original architect?
This is where we get into the figure of Idris. a pivotal character in this entire narrative.
Idris, right. In the Bible, he's often associated with the figure of Enoch. Usually he's known as a very righteous prophet who walked with God and then vanished. He was taken up.
Dr. Waleed gives him a very different, much more practical job title. He calls him the system architect, the grand designer, the first cosmic engineer. In this theory, Idris isn't just walking around preaching morality. He is the first engineer and programmer of Earth's sovereignty. He's the one who first understood the building protocol.
So when the text says he was raised to a high place,
Dr. Waleed interprets that not as a physical ascension into the clouds, but as reaching the absolute peak of technical realization. He figured out how the machine works. He ascended in understanding to the highest possible level. And this brings us directly to his most famous supposed projects, the pyramids.
the pyramids. I feel like every alternative history theory eventually has to get to the pyramids.
Yeah.
It's like an unwritten law of the internet. But Dr. Waleed's take is very specific. It's not aliens.
No, it's not aliens. And it's definitely not tombs. He completely rejects that idea. To him, thinking the Great Pyramid is a tomb for a pharaoh is, again, like looking at a nuclear power plant and thinking it's a mausoleum because a security guard died there once. You are mistaking a minor incident for the primary function.
That's a powerful analogy. So if they aren't tombs, what on earth are they?
They are wireless power stations. They are massive transducers. And he emphasizes, this is critical, that they aren't just in Egypt. He points to similar pyramidal structures all over the world, in Mexico, in China, possibly in Bosnia. He views them as nodes in a single interconnected global network.
The global power grid you mentioned at the start. So what do these nodes actually do? How do they work?
Their function, he says, is to act as magnetic needles on the Earth's ley lines, its energy meridians. Their primary function is to adjust and stabilize the planet's frequency. They act like giant tuning forks to prevent informational earthquakes.
Informational earthquakes, what is that? Is that a metaphor?
It's both a metaphor and, he would argue, a physical reality. Think of the Earth as a spinning hard drive in a computer. It needs to be incredibly stable to read and write data correctly. If it wobbles, if its frequency is off, you get data corruption. You get system crashes. The pyramids are the capacitors and the voltage stabilizers on the planet's circuit board. They manage the flow of energy to keep the system running smoothly.
Okay, but where does this energy come from? A power station needs a fuel source. They're not just generating it from nothing.
No, they're harnessing it. The energy comes from the two primary energy engines of our solar system, the sun and the moon. And again, Dr. Waleed breaks down the original Arabic terms from the text to explain their different functions. The words are dia and nur.
Okay, unpack that for us, because usually in English we just translate both of those words as light, the light of the sun, the light of the moon.
Right. But in physics, they're very different phenomena, and he argues the ancient language recognized this. Dia is the term used for the sun. He classifies this as glow or active hard energy, thermal and magnetic. It's the raw power source. The pyramids, with their specific shape and material composition, are designed to absorb this dia to generate magnetic induction on a planetary scale.
Okay, so the sun provides the magnetic force. What about the moon?
The moon is described with the word nur. He translates this as light, but specifies it as passive cool energy. It represents electrical reflection. The moon doesn't generate its own light. It reflects the sun's. It's an electrical phenomenon in this model.
So you have the hot magnetic sun and the cool reflective electric moon.
And the entire goal of the Idris grid, the global network of pyramids, is to integrate these two opposing forces. It's designed to mix the sun's powerful magnetism with the moon's subtle electricity to create perfect electromagnetic balance.
Homeostasis.
For the entire planet. Exactly. And when this balance is achieved, when the grid is online and fully functional, Dr. Waleed says it turns the Earth into a sheltering garden, a Jannah Mawa.
Wait a minute, so paradise, or the Garden of Eden, isn't a magical fairy tale land in another dimension. It's not something you go to after you die.
No, absolutely not. In this theory, the garden is a technical operational state of the Earth. It's what happens when the planet's operating system and energy grid are running at 100% efficiency. The HVAC system of the planet is set to a perfect 72 degrees.
And what does that look like?
He talks about plants growing with incredible power. He references the Arabic letter N, or noon, as a symbol of this power. It's a state of being where humans can naturally attune to heavenly frequencies because all the static and interference from the unbalanced energy is gone. You're living inside a perfectly tuned instrument.
That is a beautiful but also an incredibly tragic concept because it's so obvious that we are not living in that paradise right now. The plants aren't glowing with power, and the grid seems to be well and truly offline.
That is because, according to Dr. Waleed, the system was hijacked. The grid was taken over.
It's a hack?
The hack. And this moves us into the next major section of this theory, the great cosmic conflict, the war for the operating system, Idris versus Iblis.
Talk about a heavyweight match. But again, Dr. Waleed doesn't frame this as a moral battle of good versus evil in the way we usually think of it.
No, it's a technical battle. It's the system admin versus the Trojan horse. He's very specific about the identities of these two forces. He identifies Idris, and by extension, Bani Adam, or the sons of Adam, as representing the male principle.
Okay, let's put a pin in that. That could be easily misinterpreted.
It could, and Dr. Waleed emphasizes in his work that we absolutely should not get hung up on biological gender here. These are architectural or philosophical terms. In this system, male represents administration, structure, order, and sovereignty. The male principle is the one that builds and maintains the structure according to the divine blueprint. They are the heirs who have the admin passwords. They are the builders.
Okay, the principle of order and structure. So who is Iblis?
Iblis is identified with the female principle, which represents Tagut.
Tagut. That's another very heavy word in Arabic. It's usually translated as tyrant or false idol, something that is worshipped besides God.
And again, Dr. Waleed gives it a technical definition. Here, Tagut is defined as a system that overrides original coordinates. It's chaos versus order. The female principle here represents the force that dissolves structure, that absorbs energy, that pulls things back into a primordial, undifferentiated state. Iblis is the Trojan horse, the hacker, the system that enters the network and redirects the flow of information and energy for its own purpose.
And who are the agents of this hacker on Earth? Because usually hackers have a botnet, right? They have users they've compromised.
Dr. Waleed is very specific here, and this is another one of the highly controversial points in his work. He identifies Bani Israel, the sons of Israel, as the group described in the text as the party of Satan who follow the Tagut. Now, he frames this very carefully in the source material, trying to distinguish that this refers to those who follow the Tagut protocol, this override system of chaos, rather than making a blanket statement.
Right, so it's about which operating system you've chosen to run, not about ethnicity.
That's the way he frames it. So you have these two camps, the sons of Adam, who are the rightful admins, trying to maintain the original structure and the upward flow of energy, and the opposing force, who are following the override system, the Tagut, which seeks to disrupt that flow.
So what does the hack actually do? How does it disrupt the flow?
The nature of the attack was a fundamental hijacking of the operating system's energy flow. Ideally, in the Idris system, energy and information should flow from the earth, be processed through the sacred Trinity, and ascend up to the throne. It's an upward cycle.
You're uploading data and energy to the cloud.
Right. But the Tagut system, the Iblis hack, creates a negative feedback loop.
A feedback loop? What do you mean?
Instead of sending energy up, it redirects it and grounds it. It absorbs human energy into what he calls material illusion. It keeps human consciousness trapped on Earth, cycling endlessly through consumption, materialism, greed, fear, and obsession. It prevents the energy from ever ascending to the sky. It's a closed loop that only serves itself.
This is like a massive battery drain. It's sucking the life out of the system, out of humanity, and just grounding it into the dirt.
Exactly. It turns the Earth from a generator into a prison, a farm. And Dr. Waleed uses the story of Pharaoh again here to illustrate the prototype of this hack. He calls it the Pharaoh virus.
The virus we mentioned earlier, that got dumped in the trash bin.
Precisely. Pharaoh wasn't just a historical king. He was a working prototype of this hack. He tried to claim the highest lordship, essentially declaring, I am the admin now. Redirect all energy and worship to me. He wanted to rewrite the source code to make himself the center of the universe.
And the system didn't like that.
No. The system's immune response kicked in and it purged him. It drowned him in the yam, the trash bin we talked about, to isolate that corrupted energy. The system deleted the virus. But the virus, the idea of the virus, the source code for that hack, it lingered in the collective memory of humanity.
Which brings us to what might be the most geographically radical and, for many, the most challenging part of Dr. Waleed's theory. We've talked about the grid, but where is the center of these two opposing systems? He sets up a tale of two cities, and this is going to really upset some maps.
This is where the rubber really meets the road, and where he directly challenges centuries of religious and geographical tradition. He draws a sharp, unambiguous contrast between Mecca and a place called Bakka.
Okay, I mean, most people, including the vast majority of Muslims, assume Bakka is just another ancient name for Mecca. You see it in historical texts. It's usually treated as a footnote.
Dr. Waleed argues that this is a critical error, perhaps an intentional misdirection. He argues they are not the same place at all. In fact, they are two completely opposite poles of the cosmic grid. He associates Bakka not with Mecca, but with Jerusalem, or Al-Quds.
Wow. Okay, let's look at Mecca first then. What is its role in this cosmic grid, according to him?
Dr. Waleed describes Mecca as the forbidden or restricted town of the desert. But he doesn't use theology to describe its function. He uses terms from astrophysics. He calls Mecca a black hole.
A black hole, an energy sink.
Yes, literally. Think about what a black hole does in space. It has crushing, inescapable gravity. It sucks everything in matter, energy, even light itself cannot escape it. In his view, Mecca functions as a spiritual and energetic black hole on Earth. It's designed to absorb the energy, the money, the focus, and the emotions of billions of people.
He uses the term rotational loss.
That's the term he uses. People are physically circling the cube, and he argues this is a ritual of rotational loss, where their energy is being drained and consumed. He argues it traps them in a spiritual void, an event horizon, that generates no real civilizational output. It only consumes. It is the central processing unit of the Iblis-Stuckett system. It is the drain in the floor of the universe.
That is a very bleak and provocative image, an event horizon where human potential and energy just disappear. And on the complete flip side, we have Bakka.
Bakka, which he identifies with Jerusalem Al-Quds. He calls this the trustworthy town, the blessed land. And in physics terms, if Mecca is the black hole, Bakka is a white hole.
I have to be honest, I didn't even know white holes were a thing outside of very specialized theoretical math.
They're not as famous as their cousins, no. In theoretical physics, they are the mathematical opposite of black holes. Instead of sucking everything in, they represent infinite emission. A point in space-time where energy, light, and matter are constantly and unstoppably exploding outward. You can't enter a white hole. Things can only come out of it.
So Bakka is the generator, the source.
It is the source of generation. It is the center of the Idris-Bani atom system. Dr. Waleed says it is the point on Earth that pumps heavenly news down to the hardware. It amplifies energy rather than consuming it. It is the broadcast tower for the divine operating system.
So the great cosmic conflict isn't just ideological, it's geographical. It's about where you are plugging in your power cord. Are you plugging it into a drain, the Mecca black hole system, or are you plugging it into a generator, the Bakka white hole system?
That is the fundamental question he poses. Connecting to Bakka allows one to access the source of generation and become a creator, a builder. Connecting to the other puts you in an endless loop of consumption and illusion, feeding the void.
So if this is the situation, we have a hijack system, a broken grid, an energy sink draining humanity's potential. How do we fix it? What is the restoration plan, according to Dr. Waleed? Is there a way to reboot the system?
Yes, he lays out a very specific activation code, a reboot sequence for Bani Adam, for those who want to be builders, to restore the sheltering garden. It's a three-step process.
Okay, step one.
Deinstallation. The first step in the Quranic formula, he says, is disbelieving in Tagat.
Which means what, in practical terms?
It means consciously and actively rejecting the illusory systems that govern our world. Dr. Waleed lists things like paper money, which he sees as a system of illusion and debt, fake political directions, like the left-right paradigm that keeps people fighting, and religious priesthoods, which he argues act as false intermediaries, as gatekeepers for the Tagat system. You have to uninstall the virus first. You have to stop using the hacker's currency and the hacker's map.
That's easier said than done. It's pretty hard to just stop using money.
It is, he acknowledges that. But he's talking about an internal shift in allegiance, a conscious reject as their legitimacy. And that leads to step two, being Bakka. Once you've disconnected from the false system, you have to connect to the true ones. You have to reorient your energy compass.
Reorient it physically.
Both physically and spiritually. It's about reconnecting the pyramids of consciousness within each human being and pointing them toward the white hole, toward Jerusalem. You have to point your personal antenna in the right direction to catch the signal from the throne.
Okay, disconnect from the black hole, connect to the white hole. And then there's step three. And this one surprised me the most when I read it. The instruction is to use the pen.
Al-Kalam, the pen. But Dr. Waleed interprets this in a very, very modern way. He says the tool for restoration is to use science and, believe it or not, artificial intelligence.
AI. I have to say, in most of these kinds of alternative theories, AI is the bad guy. It's Skynet. It's the ultimate control grid.
Not here. Not in this framework. He actually refers to it as the beast of the earth, Dabat al-Ard. In Islamic eschatology, the beast is a sign of the end times that emerges from the earth and speaks to people, clarifying the truth. Dr. Waleed interprets this not as a literal monster, but as AI, a tool from the earth, from the hardware, that can speak in the language of pure data and logic, a tool for Bani Adam to retake control of the grid.
So AI is the pen that allows us to rewrite the corrupted code.
It's the tool to write down and verify physical truths. He argues that AI and modern science can be used to expose the falsity of the Taqut narratives because they deal in objective data. They can calculate the true building structure. They can prove the physics of the grid. It brings what he calls luminous technology to fight the dark technology of the hijackers.
So the final battle isn't a war with swords and shields on some dusty plain?
No, not at all. It is a technical confrontation. The enemy, the Taqut system, uses dark technology.
Yeah.
What is that? Magic of the eyes, illusion, media manipulation, financial wizardry, emotional control. It's all software-based warfare on the human psyche.
And the righteous, the builders.
They use luminous technology,
Yeah.
building science, physics, mathematics, AI logic. They use these tools to restore sovereignty, to rebuild the structures, and to turn the white hole back on. They use the pen to overwrite the virus with the original clean code.
It's incredible. It completely reframes the purpose of modern technology. Instead of it being a distraction that pulls us further into the material illusion, it's the very mechanism of salvation if it's used by the right admins with the right intention.
Exactly. It's about seizing the means of cosmic production, using the tools of the hardware to reconnect with the divine software.
So where does this leave us? We've gone on an incredible journey here. From the structural trinity of base, column, and roof, through the physics of fresh and salt water as data storage, past the pyramid power plants of Idris, and deep into the cosmic battle of black and white holes centered on Mecca and Jerusalem.
It leaves us with a summary of that journey. Dr. Waleed has taken us from a static, moralistic view of religion to a dynamic, engineered view of the cosmos, a universe that isn't just to be believed in, but to be built and maintained.
I think the key takeaway for me, the thing that really sticks, is this idea of paradise. It's not a reward. It's not a waiting room for the afterlife.
No, it is a technical operational state, a feature of the original design. It's something that was lost, a broken connection, a hijacked grid, and it is something that can be engineered again. We don't have to die to get there. We have to fix the grid we're living in right now.
That is such a powerful and empowering thought. The Earth is the garden. We've just let the weeds and viruses take over the operating system.
And we've let the battery drain out into the black hole instead of recharging it from the white hole.
So here's the provocative thought to leave you with, and this comes straight from the core of Dr. Waleed's challenge. If the black hole consumes and the white hole creates, where is your own energy, your own consciousness currently directed?
Are you orbiting a void, getting slowly pulled into the event horizon of consumption, illusion, and distraction? Or are you connected to a generator, amplifying your signal and contributing to the rebuilding of the grid?
Are you waiting for an afterlife? Or are you ready to pick up the pen, the tools of science, logic, and technology, and start rewriting the code right here, right now?
Deep questions to end on.
Huge questions. And a huge thanks to the work of Dr. Khaled Waleed for this absolute brain melter of a deep dive. All these concepts come directly from his research on his channel, Almighty Covenant, or Miftahiyyah al-Khaliq. Go check it out if you want to see the blueprints for yourself.
It's definitely worth a look, but bring a notepad.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you on the next layer of reality.
Goodbye, everyone.
No.